But where we're going to start is we're going to kind of just revisit, we've been on this journey of arising and aligning, and it's been incredible to watch so many of you transform in this. And some of you are still at the awkward phase, the I hate this phase. Does this get any better phase? This, I love it. Oh, I hate it. Oh, I love it. Oh, I hate it. Why am I doing this? So I think I know why. And so everywhere in between. But I thought that it would be good to just kind of spend some time understanding what we're oftentimes up against as we go through this process. And so this is a high-level thought process around the art of meditation, right? And the art of our process in going in. And when I talk about what does it look like to go in, what I mean is it to access the quiet place within you. And the reason that this is so important is how many of you would say over the last couple of weeks, you have had a very loud couple of weeks, meaning the world is loud, the chatter is loud, the distractions are loud, anything, it's just loud. Do you know what I mean? How many of you know what it means when it feels mentally loud? How many of you know what it feels like when it's emotionally loud? How many of you know what it means when I say it's literally loud? Have you been to my house lately? My house is loud all the time. So it's one thing when we talk about when our physical spaces are loud because we have children under the age of 9, which you'll probably hear mine tonight, and that's okay. But there's also this time and this space where mentally it feels really loud, emotionally it feels really loud, spiritually it feels really loud. And it makes us, I want to say, lose hope in the process a little bit of arising and aligning because we start to immediately feel like we're doing something wrong. Or if you're like me, when it's loud, I just want to escape the loud. Like I want to do something different. I don't want to sit and push through the loud. I actually want to escape it. I want to run. I want to do something different. So I've just been feeling lately this overwhelming sense of loud. And it's caused me to have to go, okay, what's mine in this, God? And what's potentially happening in my dreamer community that I need to speak to someone's loud? Their world is loud. Their emotions are loud. Their mental space is loud. Their emotional state is loud. Everything now all of a sudden feels heavy, and it doesn't feel grace-filled. It doesn't feel sustainable, right? It feels exhausting and it feels tiring. And I want to speak to you in this. I want to speak to you in this because I think this is really important. And if you are going, no, I feel great. I feel great. I'm just scooching right along in this whole thing and I love it. Then put this in your tool belt for later because good on you, but you're going to need it later. Okay. So what we're going to talk about is what I call the 3 C's to this meditation process, this mindfulness process, this aligning of our minds, our hearts, our dreams, right, is the art of meditation. Now, when we use the word art of meditation, how many of us know that it's in the eye of the beholder? Art is in the eye of the beholder. So just because I love this doesn't mean you have to love it. Just because this is my way doesn't mean it has to be your way. But this is kind of my strategy on how I quiet the loud around me to access the quiet space within me and the space in which God is ultimately speaking. Because here's what I believe. I think God doesn't compete with the loud. I think he's too honorable. I think he's too principled. And I think he's just too sovereign in that he doesn't have to be loud to be heard. He is. He's the beginning from the end, right? It says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the whole earth. Now the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Can you imagine how quiet and yet how majestic that would have been? Spirit of God is hovering over the darkness. And then all of a sudden it's like, he says, let there be light, and there's light. I can't imagine that he's screaming it. Why? Because he's just sovereign in that way. So part of this is I want to retrain you or train you in how to get through the loud and ultimately get to this quiet place, not only in your arise and align time, but at any point in time. Okay. So these are called the 3 C's to meditation. So if you're taking notes, it's going to be called the 3 C's to meditation. Number 1 is the chatter phase. It's the chatter phase. This is also red zone. How many of you know that if you're driving in a car and there's a red light, you stop? Here's what happens. In our process of arising and aligning or trying to quiet the space within us, we don't see red in the same way. Here's what I mean. When we're in the chatter zone, these are all of the thoughts that are running through our head that sound like, this is stupid, and I hate this, and this is never going to work, and I don't know why I'm doing this, and I don't have time for this, and only he would, and if only she would, and I don't even get this checklist, and I think that this is stupid, and is that just me? It's you too. It's you too. I see you. I got you. That's the chatter phase. And all of a sudden, what happens is when we are in this place long enough, it starts, and for some of us, right, especially for us verbal processors, me being one of those, oftentimes it's just like this vibration where you can say, no, I'm feeling anxious. And then I feel sad. And then I feel hopeless. And then I feel maybe excited. And I'm not excited. And we just feel like we're kind of on this like overwhelming roller coaster of emotions. Same thing, right? This is the chatter layer. This is also red zone. What does that mean? It means we don't make decisions in the red zone. We don't concentrate on what's happening in the red zone. We need to hear our thoughts, but we do not need to engage with our thoughts. You need to feel your emotions. You do not need to engage with your emotions. Most of us, this is where we engage the most. We start to hear the thoughts of panic, and so we start to engage and we start to make real quick decisions. Or we lean in and we start to feel the anxiety, and all of a sudden we become anxious. We feel the anger and we become angry. And what I'm saying in this phase is I want you to hear what your thoughts are saying, but I do not want you to engage with them. I want you to feel what your emotions are trying to tell you, but I do not want you to become them. So for some of you, that might mean you literally grab your journal at this point in time, and this is where you just write. Every thought that's coming up as fast as you possibly can, you put a word to all the emotions that you're feeling, and then you let it be. You've got to let it be. Rule number 1, you hear these thoughts, you do not engage. You feel these emotions, you do not become them. This is called the chatter layer. This is normal. This is also why people don't do this process. This is also why people turn to vices. This is why we would turn to alcohol, food, sleep, gambling, shopping, any high. Why? Because I need to get off this roller coaster of chatter. It's not a sustainable zone. But what we do is we actually just pretend it away, or we medicate it away, as opposed to going, all right, let's get this out of our head and onto paper, and then let's not engage. Once we work through that process, again, this could be in your arise and align moments. This could be at the grocery store. This could be in the car on the way to soccer practice. It doesn't matter. The idea here is I have to get out of me what's going on inside of me so it doesn't block me from what God's trying to do in and through me. Once we take inventory, we actually witness the thoughts, we put a word to the emotions, then we can move through to the second layer. And the second layer is called the constructive zone. This is yellow. So if we're back to the analogy of driving on the road, some of us see yellow and we stop. Some of us speed up. What do you do? Some of us see yellow and we're like, ooh, slow down. Some of us see yellow and we automatically think it means to speed up. Really, let's be honest. Okay. Constructive zone this is oftentimes when someone's really trying to be still, is that all of a sudden we start to think about all the things that we should have done yesterday and need to do tomorrow. And we just go, don't think about that. Don't think about that. Don't think about that. And we try not to think about it. We try not to engage, but the reality is it's constructive. It's in the eye. Like it's okay. It's yellow. Yeah, you could stop or you could go. What do you want to do? Well, I got to pay that bill. I forgot to send gifts to my in-laws. Oh, shoot. Did I send that invoice? Did I check that email? Did I clean that part of my house? Did I buy those groceries? Did I set that alarm? You need to open your eyes in the process, and you need to start making a list of all of the things that are starting to bubble to the surface. Do that. This is your taskmaster zone. These are those urgent things of life. These are the things that ultimately we have to do. It's called lifing. Like we have to do these things. Right? Now, the problem with the zone is that this is where most of us live our lives. Reactive, checking things off the list as fast as we can, or sometimes we slow down and we try to pretend like they're not even happening. And part of this process is we need to actually put these things down. We need to let them be what they are. We need to recognize they're kind of par for the course. That is what life is. It's what's presented itself. And then we need to give it space. We need to give it space. This is your yellow zone. This is your taskmaster zone. This is also the zone that is important for you to get done, but it ultimately, if you only focus on these things day in and day out, you will wake up frustrated, hopeless, and feeling like a hamster wheel. Why? Because you're doing a lot throughout the day, but you're not getting anywhere. Has anyone ever been there? Like you're like, I'm getting all the things done, but I don't seem to be getting anywhere. It's like a treadmill. I'm running hard and I'm running hard. By the end of the week, I'm exhausted. But when I look up, I'm like, I'm still in the same spot, doing the same thing with the same people. Why? Because we're only focused on the yellow zone. Now, once we create space to get all of that down on paper, all of that out of our heads, we don't try to resist it. We don't try to force it. And we also don't do anything with it in the moment. Meaning, if I'm in my Horizon Aligned time and it says you need to send that email, most of us are like, oh, I should send that email right now. Oh, I need to text that person. We grab our phone and we totally lose the flow. The idea here is I want it written down on paper, but I don't want you to do anything with it yet. Okay. Now, once you have everything written down on paper, because you will run out of things to say. You will run out of things to do. Like your to-do list might some days be 100 things. It might be 5 things. It might be 999. The idea here is you will run out of things to do. And once you do, this is where you go in. This is your green zone. This is the creative zone. Another word for that is dreamers. This is your dream zone. Green means go. In this space, this is where we've heard and witnessed the chatter. We've gotten all of those things that we've got to do, need to do, should have done, probably will have to do out of our heads. And we sit quietly. And right there, studies have shown that 5 seconds of quiet space makes most humans very uncomfortable. Just 5. To the point that even on an elevator, if it's quiet for that long, we start to make small talk, which we don't even want to. Like we're talking about the weather. Like, I don't even care. I don't even care. Oh, nice shoes. I don't even like his shoes. Oh, how's your day? Don't care. Right? Like we're like just filling space. We're like, say something. Why? Because we're just so uncomfortable with quiet. I'd like to propose to you that it's this quiet place that you were made for, but we've got to learn to get comfortable in that uncomfortable space until it becomes our new norm. Here's a creative zone. Here's what starts happening when you're in this place. Nothing. Everything. Nothing and everything happens in this space. Remember, the point of this space is not to be good at it. The point of this space is also not to get these like incredible downloads all the time, though it does prime you for that. Though there's been many times in this quiet place that I've literally thought about some of the things that we're doing now as a company or even in our family, like that's come from the quiet place. Oftentimes, and more often than not, all it's doing is it's priming me to be paying attention to the spiritual realities, priming me to be paying attention to myself at a soul level, priming my mind and my heart to be available to what God wants to do in His will, in His way, in His time, so that when I go out in my life, when I go out and make the phone calls, when I go about my business, that there's a moment in time when someone says, hey, have you ever thought of, or you see a number, or you see a color, or you see a pattern? How many of us have seen that? We're like, what did you just say? And instantly, that's exactly what I've been looking for. That's exactly what I've been wanting. And all of a sudden it's like everything that you've been looking for like flashes before your eyes. Why? Because you're learning to prime yourself not only for the answer, but for His presence. And His presence shows up not always in the way that we want it to, but in the way that it's supposed to. His presence shows up in numbers. His presence shows up in colors. His presence shows up in a prophetic word from someone else. His presence shows up in a book that we read, in a quote that we see. It's that even that Bible verse that in a moment we could read it and we go, oh, has this been here before? Have you literally read Psalms 55:17? Have you seen this? You're like, what? It was always there. Psalms 55:17, by the way, has been there since the beginning of time. I just didn't realize it. It's been there all along. What am I doing? I'm just priming my heart and my mind to not live in chatter, to not live through construction, but I'm priming myself to get through that so that I can posture my mind and my heart to be available to what God wants to do in and through me. Here's why this is so important. It's in this quiet space that you're able to humble yourselves to the process of God, the way of God, the will of God. clear out the space. And that's where you get to ultimately look at the rest of the process and go, okay, God, what are we going to do today? Okay, God, what are we dreaming today? Okay, God, what do you want to show to me today? Okay, God, and a part of this process is we recognize that if we're connecting all the dots of this process, is we realize that we go, okay, I know that I'm going to be breathing and doing my gratitude and my visualization, and I'm going to be dream stacking and leaning into your word and learning. And so instantly in this space, I'm always like, God, what do we want to do today that takes me from a place of visualization up into my dream stacking that gets me rooted and grounded in your word, living as the woman that you've created me to live, learning the lessons that you want me to learn? What do you want to do today? And there's times that he says nothing. And then there's times that instantly, all of a sudden, I come back to the picture of the vision that he's given me. I start to recognize the next steps towards my dreams. And ultimately, it's from this place that becomes the overflow into our dream stacking right here. Because what I'm asking us to all petition in this space is not just to sit quietly, which is the case, but is that big question of, God, what do you want to do today? And what do you want me to do about it? How many of us have asked that question? God, what do you want to do today? And what do you want me to do about it? From there, it's going to draw you back into the process that he has you going in, right? And you're going to look back at your journal, and you're going to look at each step of the process. And I guarantee you there will be one part of this process that's going to jump out at you. There's going to be one part of this process that's going to speak to you on that page. It could be a scripture. It could be a dream stack. It could be the vision. It could be the affirmation. There's going to be a piece to this. It could be the very breath that he's asking you to breathe. And part of this is going to be trusting the process of whatever he's highlighting. Then, whatever we find that he's going to say, or whatever clarity we get, that's where this quiet space starts to translate into our dream stacking. This is where it gets good, because now I take what I'm hearing him say and I start to go, all right, what are we going to do about that then? What are the next couple of things that I can do to move my butt in the direction I know you want me to be? What in this quiet space? For some of us, it's literally, we're going to go, you just want me to be still as a lifestyle. Some of us are going to go, you want me to be peaceful as a lifestyle. It's part of this is going to prime yourself. So when you get out in the world and your Hulk starts to pop up, or your passive aggressive starts to pop up, or old patterns start to pop up, you're easily able to go, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. But tell me what you're saying. Okay, you're anxious. Got it. Because what do you think you need to do? Oh, all of those 1,700 things. Okay, great. But once all of those things are done, then what happens? I'm back in total peace. Okay, great. Then you're going to take that total peace and you're going to go back up to the chatter and you're going to go, okay, peace, what do you say to my chatter? Then you're going to go, okay, peace, what do you say to this list of things that I need to do? And ultimately what you're going to do is you're going to reframe the way that you approach life, not because life changed, but because you changed. Not because the chatter stopped, you stopped the chatter. Not because the to-do list went away, you just decided to approach the to-do list from a place of creativity, from the dream zone, as opposed to the other way around. Here's why this is then important. Once I understand in this dream zone and I realign to my dreams and I get clear, because part of this is now, as I'm clear, now I'm going to start looking at, okay, now I'm going to breathe. Now I'm going to go through my gratitude practice. Now I'm going to go through my visualization. I'm going to start dream stacking. I'm going to anchor into his word. I'm going to look at what I need to learn about this. And I'm going to affirm everything that I'm hearing him say. What that allows us to do is one of the most important parts to this process. And that is taking my dream zone, the things that I see on this piece of paper of who I need to become, what I need to do, how I need to think about things, what scripture I need to anchor into. And from there is going to create what's called our dream zone. Dream zone is green. That means that dream zone Even if it's, I need to be a woman of peace, I need to write 1 chapter today, I need to make these 10 phone calls, and I need to do 1 hard workout. Most of us are not taking what's happening in our dream journal and putting them on our phone. It's not translating. It has to translate. So I'm putting things down on my journal, and I've talked to too many people that go, yeah, but that does, I'm like, well, where does it go? They're like, I don't know, JG, you didn't tell me where it's supposed to go. What you write down now has to translate into real life. And what that means is that I want everyone to grab your phone right now. You're like, didn't you tell me to put my phone away? Normally, I tell you to put your phone away so you're not distracted. I want you to pull up your calendar. And the reason that I want you to pull up your calendar is your calendar reflects whatever you believe. No, my calendar reflects all the things that I have to do. That would then reflect the fact that you're living in a constant state of chatter, or a constant state of just task mastering, or a constant state of like, I got to do all the things. I'm not suggesting that's not wrong. I'm just suggesting in a year, you're going to be really frustrated. And the reason that you're going to be really frustrated is because your calendar reflects all the things you have to do, and it doesn't reflect the things that God's called you to do. These are the 2 forces that we have to be aware of as a dreamer, is the tyranny of the urgent and the priority of the important. It's the here and now, and it's the dream. And my question is, does your calendar reflect the dream zone? And if today you're like, the what zone? What did you just say? What am I supposed to? That's because we're at this part of the process. I didn't actually tell you how to do this, which is why we're here. So what does this look like? This actually looks like right now, if I were to show you my calendar, you'd be like, oh my gosh, even Malachi said the other day, what are all these colors? All these colors, number one, this is my team's calendar. And all of these are color coordinated, not only according to team members, but they're color coordinated according to their zones. So what does a zone mean? A zone means that if I am in my dream zone, my green zone, that is the time of day that I am working on the things that are ultimately going to get me to where I really want to be. Anything in my yellow zone or my chatter zone, or my constructive zone, are just all the other things. They're the appointments, they're the meetings. I got to pick up my kids. I got to make all the phone calls. Great. All those things are not helpful. Like they help make you money. They keep the family fed. They ensure that all the things are getting done. But again, if you only have those on your calendar, you won't ultimately be where you really want to be. What's my point? My point is you have to identify your green zone, your yellow zone, and your red zone on your calendar. This is also what got me up at 4:30 in the morning. My green zone, my best zone where I am focused and I can create and I can do hard things like build spreadsheets, which I don't do often. Or if my team's like, we're going to need verbiage for, and I'm like, what and where? Okay. Like things that only I can do, I do in my green zone.